In the early 2000s, few names loomed as large in the hip-hop and R&B visual world as Hype Williams. His music videos weren't just cinematic, they were art. They dripped in hyper-saturated color, surreal camera angles, and an unmistakable touch of fantasy that elevated artists like Jay-Z, Missy Elliott, Will Smith, and Busta Rhymes. Some considered him the Michelangelo of hip-hop's golden era. But in the aftermath of Aaliyah's untimely passing, the man who redefined visual culture for an entire generation went quiet. Before we dive deeper into today's video, don't forget to scoop up something to munch on at rrgsnacks.com, our online concession stand that has an assortment of applewood smoked bacon jerky, freeze-dried goodies, and butter toffee peanuts. Harold Williams, better known as Hype Williams, was a graffiti artist turned filmmaker. The Queens native was always passionate about art, and he converted his dream of being a painter into a medium that reached millions. He was a perfectionist who hated rules, preferred his solitude, and let his work do the talking. But his work drastically slowed down after a tragic accident occurred. In August 2001, Aaliyah was in Miami to film some scenes for her music video, Rock the Boat, which was directed by Hype. From there, she and her crew would travel to the Bahamas to film the finishing touches. In an interview with Entertainment Tonight, Dame Dash, who was Aaliyah's boyfriend at the time, said he flew to Miami to meet up with Aaliyah, and he warned her not to go to the Bahamas for the last shoot, allegedly because he suspected Hype would try to squeeze in one more day of filming. Dame said that once Aaliyah saw the plane she would be traveling on, she was apprehensive about getting on it, but she felt obligated to finish the video. Dame said, "She got on the plane and she always had a very serious fear of planes in general, so she had to overcome a fear to get on that plane on the way there." While in the Bahamas, the 22-year-old looked radiant as she sang against the backdrop of the Caribbean's turquoise waters. Hype told MTV that the 4 days they spent filming the music video were some of the most meaningful of his life. He recalled, "The last day, Saturday, was one of the best I've ever had in this business. Everyone felt like they were part of something special. Part of her song." As we now know, on August 25, 2001, Aaliyah's plane crashed shortly after takeoff, killing her and 8 others, including her hairstylist, bodyguard, a record executive, and the pilot. According to People magazine, Aaliyah and 5 others passed away instantly, while the remaining 3 succumbed to their injuries shortly after. Toxicology reports revealed that the pilot had traces of booger sugar and alcohol in his system at the time of the crash. However, fans were more focused on Hype's silence.
But what I was really more tight about was that I had heard that Lenny Kravitz had offered her a jet and that Hype had took the jet. So that's what really pissed me off about the situation when I heard about that. So you could ask Hype about that.
That's what I said. Have you ever talked to Hype about it?
Yeah.
And how did that conversation go?
Ask him.
Aaliyah's family filed a lawsuit against Virgin Records, Black Hawk Airways, and Hype Williams for negligence. The lawsuit was eventually settled out of court. Hype never addressed any of the accusations directly. Instead, he stayed silent. The footage from the shoot was eventually released, and Hype vanished into the shadows of the culture he helped create. It's not that he disappeared entirely. He would direct again, but the pace shifted. His name wasn't attached to as many major visuals. He quietly received the Video Vanguard Award at the 2006 MTV VMAs, presented by Missy Elliott, Kanye West, and Busta Rhymes, icons whose visuals he had molded. But by then, Hype Williams had already become a ghost in his own story. To understand what might have happened to Hype after Aaliyah's passing, we need to move beyond the surface. Psychologically, high-performing creatives often exist on the edge of control and chaos. Hype, by all accounts, was a visionary, one who demanded excellence and who kept to himself. He hated city life, preferred solitude with his dogs or partner, and rarely gave interviews. He once confessed that he didn't like having to think of the right thing to say. He'd rather make statements through visuals. In psychology, this can be linked to avoidance coping mechanisms. According to the Journal of Clinical Psychology, avoidance coping is often employed by individuals who experience high anxiety and wish to minimize exposure to distressing stimuli or confrontations. For someone like Hype, the death of Aaliyah may have been too emotionally disruptive to process publicly, especially if he felt guilt, whether it was deserved or not. Studies on survivor's guilt also shed light on the situation. Individuals who survive traumatic incidents that result in the loss of others often suffer in silence. They may withdraw from social life, reduce professional output, or develop a form of emotional numbness as a psychological defense. So it was easy for people to point the finger at Hype. He was seen as the one who was orchestrating the final hours of Aaliyah's life. If he had indeed taken the better plane, as Dame Dash alleged, the guilt would be compounded, and guilt, when not externalized or resolved, corrodes from the inside. There's also something to be said about the weight of legacy. Hype built a universe around fantasy, color, and elevation. He made artists larger than life. But when reality comes crashing down, especially in the form of a young woman's passing tied to a project he directed, the fantasy fractures. How do you go back to stylizing joy when your last set became a grave? He resurfaced in 2010 with Kanye's music video for All of the Lights, a project that got attention for all the wrong reasons. Hype was accused of plagiarizing the title sequence of film director Gaspar Noé's 2009 movie Enter the Void. Gaspar also dragged Hype for filth in an interview with the Daily Beast. Gaspar said, "I was more shocked by the fact that the guy who copied all the typography of my titles put his name in it, Hype Williams, when you never usually see a director's name in a music video. He was putting his name on it over and over. It was so weird that he was not only copying it, but adding his name into the credits over and over again." The music video was later re-edited after complaints from epilepsy foundations over the flashing lights. By then, Hype's brand was fractured. He would pop up for Tom Brady's Brady golf campaign in 2022 to shoot sleek white backgrounds and superhero silhouettes. The visual flair was still there, but it was a different kind of project. One could argue that Hype had evolved, or maybe he had retreated into something more manageable and less emotionally combustible. Then came the conspiracy theories. Online users alleged that Hype knew Aaliyah's plane was overloaded and didn't stop the shoot, and that he purposefully took a safer jet that was meant for Aaliyah. The truth, as always, is murky. But silence, especially from someone known for stylized expression, creates a vacuum, and in the absence of a narrative, people create their own. And perhaps that's the final piece of Hype's mystery. He never defended himself publicly. Instead, he vanished into the folds of music history, occasionally re-emerging, only to disappear again. According to his IMDb, Hype hasn't directed a music video since 2021. Before that, his output had already slowed noticeably, with only a handful of projects in the years prior. It's a stark contrast to the height of his career, when he was directing multiple high-budget videos every month and setting the visual standard for an entire genre. What's even more revealing is his recent Instagram activity. Rather than music sets or celebrity shoots, Hype's feed is now filled with snowboarding content that feels more like a passion project than commercial work. It suggests a shift in his mindset. The man once responsible for hip-hop's most extravagant visuals seems to have found peace behind the lens in quieter, colder terrain. Perhaps the shift in his content is based on current trends. In the 90s, labels would spend hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions on a single music video. These videos were then shown on rotation on MTV, BET, and VH1 to help catapult a song to #1. These days, with streaming platforms dominating and music discovery driven by TikTok trends, playlists, and algorithms, videos aren't seen as essential anymore. Many top-charting songs don't even have visuals, and when they do, it's often just an animated lyric video or a short-form clip for social media. So, while Hype continues to navigate an industry that's shifted away from the kind of work he once dominated, he's also still haunted by the past. To this day, anytime he posts a photo or video online, he's met with a wave of angry messages from fans demanding answers about Aaliyah's passing. The accusations may vary, but the sentiment remains the same. Many believe he played a role in what happened, and for those people, that's something they'll never forget or forgive. The internet doesn't allow silence, and Hype's refusal to address the tragedy only seems to deepen the fixation. In the years since Aaliyah's passing, grief has taken many shapes. For some, it's turned into an obsession.
Timberland, we talking about your ass. We talking about you, Timberland. We talking about you.
For others, they've turned to playing the blame game. But the facts of the tragic day are devastating. The plane was overloaded, the pilot had substances in his system, and safety protocols were ignored. And yet, Hype's name continues to be pulled into the fire. People need someone to hold accountable. It's easier than sitting with the unbearable truth that sometimes tragedy is just tragedy. Sometimes, no matter how many precautions you take or how many warnings you hear, a moment comes that you can't escape. Aaliyah didn't want to get on that plane, but she also felt the pressure of being a star, of showing up for work, of keeping things moving. That's something many of us understand, even outside the spotlight. It's possible that Hype has been grieving in the only way he knows how, by disappearing into his lens. Perhaps that's how he copes with something that none of us will ever fully understand. Maybe the hardest part about grief is that it demands answers when there aren't any. It turns tragedy into a puzzle we try to solve piece by piece, thinking that if we can just find the one person to blame, we'll make peace with the loss. The truth is, some things aren't meant to be understood. Sometimes the most beautiful souls are taken before the world knows how to protect them. And sometimes the people left behind are carrying more than they'll ever say. Hype may never speak on what really happened before the crash, but either way, he's the one who has to live with the weight of filming Aaliyah's final sunset, knowing his camera was the last to capture her alive. And maybe that's why he's been frozen in that light ever since.